This is the Music Maestro Podcast, a behind-the-scenes look at the music business where we explore the stories and insights shaping the industry. Today, we're joined by a true innovator in music and brand partnerships, Tony Arthy, founder of Worn Out. With over 2 decades of experience in marketing, PR, and the entertainment industry, Tony has been at the forefront of bridging the gap between the music world and some of the most iconic brands on the planet. From crafting standout campaigns for legendary acts like the Coldplay, The Prodigy and Oasis, to working with cutting-edge talent such as Little Sims, Sam Fender and Kate Renada. Tony's work at Worn Out has redefined what it means to connect artists, brands and audiences in meaningful and impactful ways. In this episode, we'll dive into Tony's journey from drumming for the Wonder Stuff to managing Black Spiders and now running one of Europe's leading music and brand partnership agencies. We'll explore his creative process, his thoughts on the ever-changing industry landscape, and what it takes to build authentic, culture-driven campaigns. Please welcome Tony Arthy. Thanks, mate. Whoa, God, that was a
great introduction.
That was a mouthful. I need to take a breath. Listen, mate, it's great to have you here. Do you know why you're here, right?
I think so, yeah.
Matt Stewart,
yes.
One of our previous guests. What a legend he is.
Yeah.
Always has been in my eyes. How do you know Matt once again?
From drinking cans of beer in London Fields in lockdown, but also before that from booking his bands.
Amazing. Okay, so as we always do, I like to go back to the sort of beginning and where the passion for music came from. I can see obviously you did a business and marketing degree at university. You obviously got your career, which sort of is it fair to say bounces around a bit?
Bounces around a lot.
Yeah. So I think we'll go through that as well. But back to the beginning, where did the passion for music come from?
Good question. Don't know where it started, but
what did you grow up listening to?
Grebo and sort of, the Wonder Stuff, weirdly, which we'll go on to later. Mega City 4, Ned's Atomic Dustbin, Census Things. Yeah, Grebo-y, indie, punk. And because I'm from the Lake District, so obviously you're near Manchester, you get a lot of the, Manc, football terrace, indie.
So, I mean, when you're, how old are you when you're listening to all this?
12, probably pretty early.
Okay.
Luckily, my best mate's dad used to be a fairly recognised drummer.
Okay.
And he was a Manc, so he would drive us to Manchester anytime we wanted to see gigs.
Amazing.
So to be able to see bands you want to see at 13, 14.
Quality.
Yeah. That's good.
So at what point then did you when you've gone to school, did you college?
University, A-levels university.
Yeah, A-levels.
Basically, as soon as you started a band, I was into skateboarding to start with. And then as soon as me and my mate started a band, it was kind of just, that was it.
So, right, that's right, because you're right, of course, you were part of the band, and more than one.
Oh, yeah, several. Yeah, 50.
So was your initial passion to become a music artist?
Oh, yeah, just to be
part of a band?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Just to be the best drummer in the world, which I wasn't, and I'm not, but I did practice a lot. So eventually got good enough to be able to play.
When did you
songs.
start that journey in bands and stuff?
It was a weird journey. So 14, 15, bands from school. Went to university to try and get into some bands, really. Yeah. Did all right. Came to London with a band. Probably played in about 10 bands in London, all of differing levels. Nothing outstanding, but sniffs of record company interest for some of them. And then I joined this band, Jesus Jones, which was a band that I used to love as a kid, who my dad, number one's here, number one in America. So that was a wild journey. That was like meet him on a Tuesday afternoon, by the next Saturday be in New York.
Wow.
The first gig.
Okay.
While still sort of working at like a record mail-out shop.
Yeah. Okay. So your degree, business and marketing, was there any particular reason why you chose that?
Because I've been playing drums so much, I only got a D and an E in my A levels, so it's the only one I could get into.
Quality. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I had done very well in my GCSEs, but then drums and skateboarding and a lot of the things that we'll talk about later, it wasn't just I'm not interested in studies anymore, I was just more interested in how music worked and clothing work and skateboard brands worked and all that sort of stuff. It's
funny, I'm going to sound the same as you in terms of I feel like people are one of two, academics or creatives. I certainly fit in the creative bracket. I'm assuming I would say that as well.
Probably half and half, because I'm not actually that good at so many of the creative things, but I think I appreciate them. Yeah.
Okay, great. So when you look at your career, obviously there's, as we touched on already, there's kind of a lot to it. Let's talk us through or summarize, I guess, the beginning part of your career, because what I really want to sit with is Worn Out, obviously, and Vans Music specifically. So yeah.
Okay. So how did you do it? Yeah, after a few music industry jobs like mailing out records to indie clubs and all that, which was all right. And then I went on tour with Jesus Jones in America. And what I realised was, I kind of knew this anyway because I'd had a Alien Workshop Dinosaur Jr. t-shirt. I thought it was the coolest thing ever that it was a band. A skate company doing something together. And then when I went on tour in America, I realised everywhere you went, whether it was the boozer the night before or the diner you had breakfast in or the record shop or the radio station that you went into, everyone was like, take this cap and wear it at the show tonight, take this t-shirt, let's get a pic with it. And obviously because America is so more advanced in selling stuff and promoting stuff, it just made me think, why isn't this happening more in England? So I got back, obviously broke after a tour, got back, I got a job in a warehouse that shifted t-shirts, and they did a few brands. They did a brand called Paul Frank. Used to have that monkey on the front. But it also had like a menswear line, which was really music inspired. So they had a Tool jacket, and they had a Bad Religion t-shirt selection. So basically this brand was making loads of money from, the kids and high street shops. But the guys that owned it were all Orange County sort of punk hardcore guys. So they, on the side, were doing this other stuff. They told my boss, they were like, to the marketing in the UK, there had to be some music in it, which again, I was like, how could we do this? So, managed to jump from the warehouse into the marketing department, which was just one. So just that. And then from there, it was just, get clothes on bands. Which was sort of, the thing I'd been thinking about for a bit, but I didn't think it would ever actually be a job. So in those days, it was take a box of stuff from the warehouse, go and see bands at the time, like 100 Reasons, maybe, Biffy Clyro. That whatever the Brit rock scene as it was starting. Give them some t-shirts or whatever, and then it sort of took off from there. Then I moved over to Atticus, which is Blink 182's brand. With a bunch of great people I'm still friends with today, who have all sort of gone into my good mate there. Went on to manage Bring With Horizon. Wow. And he runs Raw Power. So that was a really great team. And that was even more. That was like take a van full of t-shirts to Camden every night and just stop in every gig. Go into sound checks, try and say hello. So it was just sick. Really sick. Nobody was getting paid anything, but am I doing that too?
No, okay, sorry, good. I just realised. It's fine, pop them on. Carry on.
Okay, so
thought you sounded a bit quiet.
There you go. So that was the job bit. And then I was getting a bit frustrated because I was doing the same. You're just working for one brand, and I figured loads of musicians wanted more stuff. So managed to set up this agency, bit of help from my good mates at the time. Set it up so that I could stop falling out with these brands that I was working for. And just be on my own, sort of, to try and bring in all these brands. So a few smaller brands, nearly went bankrupt a few times. Then Vans came along, had some friends at Vans, and they obviously got a huge history in music with the Warped Tour and other bits. That's the history, basically.
And so then how did... Because obviously Worn Out is your own thing, you're founder director of. That's 2008. How did that come about?
That was me just sort of wanting to do it more as an agency than as a in-house. Hopefully thinking about the future and thinking if you've got, get a bunch of brands, try and look after them all. So Vans has been a client for 13 years, 14 years.
Okay.
It's pretty rare in agency land because a lot of times you change over every 3 or 4 years.
Okay, Lynn, with Worn Out, what it says on LinkedIn, and again, I don't take it as read, music seeding, talent booking, brand and music partnership agency. Yeah?
Exactly that.
That's what you cover?
Yeah. Do you want to know what that is?
Well, let's start with a simple question. Well, I say simple. What is a brand partnership?
Good question. anytime, paid or unpaid, where a brand and a artist do something together. So as simple as giving someone a pair of shoes when they're going on tour.
Yeah. In
the hope that it'll get, they'll get seen on stage, they might get seen in a music video, get seen on their socials, all the way up to a, £3 million ambassador deal with an artist. Which might cover socials, content, advertising campaigns, performances, collab product.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's anything and everything between that. So
okay, I love the whole music and brand space. It's something I'm kind of more and more interested in. And so at one point I bought a book, and that book was called How Music Grows Brands, The Field Guide.
I know this book well.
How do you think music grows brands?
I think everyone knows, if it's there's a sports partnership, everyone knows that Beckham is signed to Adidas, so he has to wear Adidas, and he will say the new Adidas Beckham collection is in stock at JD this Monday. Whereas I think music's a lot more honest, and the trendy word authentic. You can't really lie. If you go to a gig and your favourite band is wearing Adidas Specials, as a kid, if you love that band, that's like, it's my trainer, man. Or like I used to be with Vans, to be like, Henry Rollins from Black Flags wearing a pair of Vans Old Schools.
Yeah.
And he skates. So I'm like, that's my shoe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There was you kind of knew it was real. It wasn't paid for.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So when we're looking at Worn Out, which is your baby since how long has that been going now?
18 years or something.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
How have you seen things in the brand partnership sort of evolve during that time?
Socials, firstly.
Yeah.
Because you could have had a brand partnership before where it was you're wearing our product, you're wearing stuff in your videos, you're wearing it on tour. I think socials changed everything because they digitalised the reach, and in some ways I don't really like that, because everybody needs, the brands, if they're going to pay, they need to know that their money's gone somewhere. But it's also, I don't think you can put a number on, a kid who loves a band thinking they're dead cool. Obviously the fees have gone mental. If some of the fees that we might have worked on, I've had like decent bands, bands that have had a #1 album playing a show for free in return for, a nice stage setup or to be able to give their fans a free show or something. And even in like 10 years, I've seen that go from that to this is £1 million even for a...
Yeah.
Obviously the artists are bigger and, it's all relative.
Yeah. Okay. So, TikTok's the main one that we always seem to speak about. It's always there. It doesn't seem to be going anywhere right now. Obviously, there's a few things going on behind the scenes. How do you, when you look at that platform specifically, how has that changed the ways brands approach partnerships in the music industry?
See, I don't know about this one, because I still find TikTok dead hard to navigate. So a lot of the things we would do would always be Instagram, because it's so easy to say we're announcing a concert now, and then the artist announces and the brand does, and hopefully you sell out all the tickets. I still think TikTok, for me, and it might be my age, it just still feels like it's a wild west of time and content and you know what I mean?
No, totally. I think the one,
and I think a lot of brands, I was going to say, I think a lot of brands feel the same.
Yeah.
And they'll never admit it. Their digital departments will never admit it.
Yeah.
But Instagram is so easy to use, isn't it?
Yeah.
For that reason. Everything's dated, everything is...
Yeah.
You've got enough images, you can add your music. The TikTok thing...
When a question I've got on a sort of... Well, it's definitely relevant, is when a brand is... Well, we're talking to someone about revenue streams in music, and brand partnerships is one of the big ones, right? Certainly not streaming for a lot of most artists. But when a brand hands over that cash for an artist partnership or a music partnership, what are they looking for in return?
Well, ideally they're looking for the things that they agreed that they'd get for the cash, and you'd be amazed how many times. Such as, so you'll always call it the the deliverables.
Yeah.
So in a deal, it's going to be whatever socials you agreed.
Yeah.
So, say it's a year deal, X amount of socials.
Yeah.
Split into like, a creative one, a product-based one, an announcement-based one. Ads campaign, so a shoot, all sort of mapped out by the amount of days. The shoot would be performance, song usage.
Yeah.
So it's probably slightly out of the deal, a separate chat. So yeah, it's whatever it is. It could be anything because no partnership is ever the same.
What about, so I'm actually thinking more on an ROI basis.
So what do you want back?
Yeah.
Well, obviously the product exclusivity, something we'd all do as Vans. So that is buying you some real estate in the world, isn't it? So imagine Little Sims, who's the biggest artist, which is our main music ambassador for Vans this year, can only wear, in the footwear space, can only wear Vans for anything.
Right.
She can still wear boots or high fashion things. There's loads of little, it's never simple anymore like it used to be. Somebody is on one brand. So she'll have to wear it. So the goods benefit is her. She will wear it for every concert. And what we saw last year was sick because she had a gig outfit, like a sick bomber jacket, shirt and tie, baggy combats, and this pair of Vans that was new. So what we saw by the end of the tour was kids turning up dressed as Sims in that new shoe. So that was kind of perfect.
Yeah. But I guess in that instance, then, because it's like it's very hard to measure the return in that aspect because you're talking about that's awareness. Yeah, and that awareness is translated into people buying. Basically,
I don't even know if you can measure barely any of this.
Right.
You know what I mean? You could say, where'd you put it with a concert? Yeah, how do you measure it? It could be somebody's best gig of their life, couldn't it? First gig of their life, best gig of their life. The night when we had the music venue, House of Vans, so the people have played there, Metallica, Foo Fighters, whoever, so many great bands. But it's not about that. It's you find out it's the night that somebody lost their virginity or somebody got engaged. Or somebody did their first kickflip outside. Smoked their first joint. Doesn't matter what it was. None of these things are ROI, but they're all can connect you to a brand for life.
Well, moments, right?
Yeah.
So you've mentioned Little Sims. You've worked with some amazing acts, and we're talking like from Metallica all the way through to Little Sims. What I want to ask is how do you tailor an approach to connect brands with artists that are at different stages of their career?
Well, the big boys, obviously money's involved, but it's very much not the only factor. Band like Metallica, so they played House of Vans. Again, I wasn't running all of the venue. That was an amazing company called Black Sparrow. I just booked the band, and worked on that deal. So for someone like them, money's no object because they sort of have it. But for them at that point in their career, they needed to do something exciting. So they hadn't toured for 8 years. The new album was getting pretty good reviews. So they were like, obviously the wider team in Metallica Land said, do something cool. And I think House of Vans suited that at the time because it was free, because they could come in and put a photo exhibition in the art gallery. They could put on something in the cinema. And we could sort of pay for what they needed to put on a show. So in some respects it's that. At the other end of the scale, if it's a new band, it's just, I think, getting in early. So we do a lot of shows and new band nights and stuff like that to get people. It sounds awful. It sounds like trying to get somebody hooked on fat singing to something. It's more like people. Biffy Clyro is a good example. When I first used to give them T-shirts from Paul Frank, they were so pumped and grateful, but they didn't really give a shit what the T-shirt was. It was like, we were so broke from getting 50 quid a gig that a new T-shirt is just a treat.
Amazing.
And I've worked with some sock brands along the way. Great sock brands in the sort of action sports space, but they haven't. They have got to some good spots just by helping bands not have to wash their socks.
Wow.
You know what I mean? That's what I'm trying to say. There's no rhyme or reason to have this, but there's.
Okay. All right. Well, when you were talking about Little Sims and the Vans and the life before, that's nothing to do with the House of Vans, because what I wanted to touch on is a brand partnership that stood out for you in 2024. Little Sims was the one we spoke about, Little Sims and House of Vans, right?
Sort of. So House of Vans is quite complicated. There's permanent ones. So there was one in London for 8 years. That's gone now. But there is pop-ups around the world. So last month we did House of Vans in Johannesburg, and Little Sims was the the headliner for that.
Right, okay.
So as part of her deal,
Yeah.
get one gig each year, and we did it there.
Amazing.
Sick. Underneath the Nelson Mandela Bridge.
Yeah,
free show. Especially cool over there because it's obviously such a complicated and poor, of money, different stratas of wealth city. So yeah, to give the kids, dead cool skaters that might not see a band very often, this moment.
Yeah.
That's the sort of thing that makes, even though she's getting paid, it's something like that. Because you shoot an ad campaign the day before, which is as commercial as you can be, even though it looks dead cool. And hopefully comes across like a thought about shoot. But then the next day you could do something fully free and, giving something back to the kids.
Yeah.
It's so easy to be cynical, isn't it? With any of this stuff, you'll have people, if you look at message boards, like anything in music, so easy to slag off, isn't it? Whether it's the Bullmasters lineup or the Reading lineup or any partnership.
Yeah.
So I feel like the Sims one, because, it's second year of the deal, but I think she never does anything she doesn't like, as a very sort of strong and focused woman, and a woman that knows what identity is. So I think it would be hard for anyone to say that this was a commercial campaign, even though it was.
Yeah.
Sort of meant, you know what I mean?
Okay. So when you're doing these partnerships, what do you ever what kind of challenges do you come up against when you're doing these campaigns?
To start with, probably cash. Cash is always. It's so mental. Some of the fees that are thrown around, and I don't think they're not mental. They're mental to the man on the street. They're maybe not mental when you realise the reach of somebody, and how much brands. I think some brands make it harder for other brands. If you're BMW or Barclaycard, or Dior, you can pay somebody £1 million to play 3 songs at your party. Whereas if somebody like Vans, you can't, but you can bring other stuff to the table.
Yeah.
Problem-wise, God, so many.
Are there ones that come up time and time again?
Yeah, it's just the thing where people don't want to do what they agreed. It's very easy in, say, November to agree I'll do 10 social media posts and a gig and 2 magazine interviews. And then you get into that working year and you might have other things on the go, or you know what I mean? People are complicated about how they curate their feed and their personal brand, aren't they? Which is all well and good, but you can't sign a contract to take the money if you're not willing to put something on your stories. Mm-hmm. And I think we're all right. Vans and some of the brands I work on, okay with that, because the content is always so nice and it's all musically streetwear. Yeah. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm.
So aside, Vans we've focused on, like, aside from bands, what other brands have you worked with in the music partnership space?
Vans has been the biggest one. Some weird ones. Brewdog, the beer company.
I know Brewdog very well.
And this was an interesting one because it was lockdown. Yeah. So obviously I was especially thinking, God, what are we gonna do if they stop all the events we book? So Brewdog, they did something clever called the Open Arms, which was a online boozer for lockdown. Yeah, that was good. That started off with, can you find us someone to play 3 songs from their bedroom for £500? All the way to, by the end, because in the second lockdown, by the end we had Johnny Marr in a Manchester recording studio playing Smith's songs and his new album. Yeah, wow. So that was sick to do something from home. Yeah, amazing. But take it from someone in their grand's shed in Brighton, and a year later to be Johnny Marr. Wow. So that was good. But that was a really good example of it. So no one knew what to do. Yeah. So you sort of worked out as you went. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so when we're looking ahead 2025, do you have any thoughts on what trends you see happening in music and brands?
I think people will stop. There's a lot of big name partnerships, as in a brand putting all their marketing budget into one person. Mm-hmm. I think, and I believe it would be more useful to people, that brands could get you a big pot of whatever it is, 1 million or 10 million, and split that between 100 acts. Yeah. It's like micro ambassadors, I suppose. Yeah. I just think
As music artists, or just generally, are you talking?
Well, yeah, music.
Yeah.
Just know, just imagine how, if you had to say just £1 million, give it to one big artist with a big reach and 1 million followers, or I could get 20 bands for 50 grand, and it would sort of change their life as much in relative.
Yeah, it's quite funny because that does sort of seem to tie in again to the regular discussion point, which is independent talent. There seems to be a lot of conversation around the rise and opportunity for independent talent, which would tie into this, as in, you know, there's a lot of independent artists out there that are doing their own thing and doing it very well now, and so again, reaching out to 50 independent artists versus one headline major label artist is probably sort of what you're touching on, right?
Yeah, exactly that. But imagine the knock-on effect that every 50 managers would make a nice little bit of commission, which would keep them vibed and you know,
spread it out a little bit. Yeah. Anything else? Any other trends? Or predictions? You can say no.
I never know. Yeah, that's the honest answer. I think I know, and then I get to the next year and I was like, I don't know anything. Because thing, I always think the change that's coming, no one's ever seen it. You know what I mean? The thing you predict's coming's already happened or isn't happening.
Okay, so with Worn Out, what is your biggest challenge right now in the music industry?
That's a good question. I think it's just the consistency and knowing is next year, are the people you work with or brands going to think the same way? You know, because you'd hope you've been working on a path together, but it's so easy for things to change. You know, I think this all the time with, it's a good example, just even things I was saying before, sometimes things flip from we need a major face to cover everything to we need to be the grassroots supporter of new music. And they're both equally as important, but I feel like a lot of time it flips back and forwards. Any, you know, somebody changes in a company and it all flips back. So yeah, I don't really know, but yeah, I'm always, every year I just start again thinking like, let's see what we can do this year.
Well, with Worn Out though, I guess what do you have like aside from like your overall mission? Is there a problem that you're trying to fix as such?
No, because I've always just loved all those bits. Always loved bands, always loved trainers, always loved good t-shirt companies, always loved skateboard companies, and I just feel I'm probably less of a problem in the world if I'm happy tinkering along with all those things, and hopefully some bands along the way. You know, I've got a little club night that I do in Hackney, which Marshall headphones have started to sponsor. And that used to cost me a fortune because I'd just pay 4 bands a month, 4 bands that I thought were dead cool, and maybe you were looking at them to see if they were good enough to come and do a bigger brand thing. So yeah, that's, now that Master's sponsoring that, it means I don't have to spend £2,000 a month on drinks for new bands.
So you've got a sponsor for this?
I have now. So I think we did 20 odd nights as just a Worn Out thing, and we just wanted to, as an incubator for bands. And then,
so how did that sponsorship come about then?
Got some friends at Marshall. Marshall have obviously had an amazing year in not so much amps, but headphones and the home speakers. So, and they are firmly believers of new music and, you know, small venues, grassroots venues. Because for them, obviously they've got 60 years history in amplifiers and guitars. So, yeah, so they just came along and said, we can help with that, which is amazing. Because it just gives you a bit of clout. And again, those bands then get a pair of headphones. You know what I mean? And then hopefully they go on into their world thinking that Marshall were a pretty cool company, which they are.
So a couple of side questions then. Where did the name Worn Out come from?
The first place that I went to work that had Paul Frank, there was a notice board in the kitchen, and every Monday I'd put a sign up saying Worn Out, and it was what bands had worn what items that week. So it could be like, here's 100 Reasons on stage at Brixton in the t-shirt, and here's, you know, Jack Saunders wearing his trainers. Not there, but you know what I mean. So yeah, it was just supposed to be here's who's
Right.
Who's worn that thing out.
Right, I see. I get you. So you must have worked on, how many campaigns do you think you worked on?
They're sort of all different, aren't they? Because you could say Fans Little Sims campaign is something that lasts for a year.
Right, I see.
You know what I mean? Or some that could just last for a day.
Yeah.
So we've probably worked with 2,000 bands or 3,000 bands.
Okay.
If you count everyone we've ever given a T-shirt to or booked something.
So I do want to touch on something, music seeding. I'm going to do it.
Come on.
What the hell is music seeding?
It is exactly just that. It's giving a band something.
Is it gifting or seeding, or are they the same thing? What's the difference?
Yeah, they are the same thing. I hate both those names. I like seeding a bit more because you are seeding something into the world.
Yeah.
Gifting just sounds so shit to me, and it sounds also just so. I don't see the connection. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just so. If somebody says gifting, I think it's somebody trying to give a product to somebody that doesn't really want it.
Right.
Where I think seeding feels more like.
Is it actually though?
I've just made it up. That's just what I think. Yeah.
So
and they both do exactly the same thing.
Yeah,
and there's probably on Instagram, if you're an influencer, you probably hashtag seeded, hashtag gifted. Probably might mean something in the rules.
So so with seeding, then with music seeding, you're in as I understand it, you're picking out artists to send product to.
Stuff to, yeah.
Yeah.
And I do get misunderstood on that because I think sometimes music seeding, a lot of bands think it might be seeding their music. So radio plugging or, you know, PR plugging.
It's sort of, but what are you, is it products you're seeding?
Yeah.
So it's like product seeding, but for the music industry?
Yeah. Or for the people that play music. So yeah.
I see. Yeah. Okay, cool.
I think I should have explained this better. But yeah, it is just that. It's giving that band a pair of trainers or the T-shirt or the headphones or the drinks.
And with that, then you're just hoping. Are you just hoping that they do a post on it?
Not so much.
Or
the post that's
what you with that seeding again? What are you looking to get in return?
I want to see like that band wearing it in a music video, or you know, on stage at Reading or on stage at.
How do you keep tabs on that?
Just sit on Instagram for fucking 20 hours a day. Sadly always be scrolling.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
It didn't used to be that. It used to be, the gigs. Well, it did used to be that, yeah. Yeah, social media's a double-edged sword, isn't it? It's absolutely amazing that I could give a jacket away, sit at home, and scroll and then see. I did it the other day. We look after Major League Baseball too, which obviously
I saw that,
we don't look after the sport. We look after their seeding suite.
Yeah.
So they've got a spot in Soho, which is all set up, all the different teams, different clothes. So we have probably 150 bands come through there.
Yeah.
And then, they get to pick a couple of caps and a jacket, whatever. So even today when I'm flicking through Instagram and Ghostface Killer from Wu-Tang Clan's in a jacket that he got the other day.
Yeah.
So that's just sick.
Yeah.
And I love that. The client loves that.
Yeah,
Everyone's and hopefully he liked his new jacket.
Amazing.
And hopefully kids out there that love Ghostface or Wu-Tang are like, dang, where'd you get that jacket from?
Yeah. Amazing. Okay, so I want to touch on, I want to talk about your most memorable project to date. You mentioned Young Blood before we started. Was it a particular campaign for a particular song? What was it?
It was something called Vans Musicians Wanted. So remember in old rehearsal rooms you'd have the sign saying, drummer wanted or bass player wanted. So this is called Musicians Wanted. You send your demos into like a Vans sub-site, send 2 songs, 1 picture, 1 YouTube. And I think we got like 11,000 entries in Europe, 22 in America, another 10 in Asia. So I have to listen to them all. So we don't.
How many in total?
11,000 are me and my company listen to. So we set up a mega system to be like,
wow.
You weren't getting a full song, but if if it was awful after, if it was just absolute metal shred, not that there's nothing wrong with metal shred. If it was just stuff that we'd heard a million times before, then it sort of got dumped. And then we got it down to 20 of what we thought were the coolest, new, exciting Vans style bands. And then Youngblood, who was their ambassador at the time for that year, he would pick his favourite one from the 20 Europe, his favourite one from the 20-odd thousand Americans, and then the APAC, which is sort of Asia and Australasia. And then we had a House of Vans in Mexico City, so he came to play, free gig, and those 3 bands got to open. So imagine the vibes of taking the winner for this. The UK was a band called Lemonade Shoelace from Belfast. Sick band, sound like a young Tame Impala. So we got to say to them, come on lads, all of you and your manager are coming to Mexico, expenses paid, 5 days, and then you get to support Youngblood on the middle night.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Proper thing.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Youngblood's a top lad, you know, he'd spend an hour with them all saying, this is how I started. Gave him phone numbers of everyone, give us a ring if you need any advice or anything. So that, well, firstly, it's a sick trip to Mexico City, but also to bring all of that, to give 3 bands the week of their lives, and to do something dead cool. And Youngblood in Mexico is pretty massive, so you're giving 1,000 kids there a free Youngblood show.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the dream, sort of.
Amazing. So we've mentioned Metallica, I think Sam Fender and Little Sims.
Yeah. Sam was a weird one. Sam, we only booked Sam once.
All right.
Going to see him tonight actually at the O2, but he played for like 20 people for us in Berlin. Right. It was a tiny little a Vans fashion do.
Yeah.
And luckily our boss at the time was dead good, and he said, I've got like 10 grand. Find your 5 best new bands in England, get them to come out and we'll show them a good time in Berlin.
Amazing.
And at the time, one of them, Sam, kindly took his Adidas off, put his Vans on for the gig. After the gig, gave us the Vans back, put his Adidas on and went off again.
Quality. So what, like, are there any other, like, either acts that were in their early stages of the career when you worked with them that then went on to big things, or just massive headline acts that you've had the opportunity to work with?
Interesting. So, I suppose at House of Vans, we were on with Royal Blood pretty early, and Churches.
Yeah.
You know, they're still big bands, but we've got to have them in very small rooms. So, yeah. The Metallicas, the Foo Fighters were mental, obviously, because they were playing to 800 and not
amazing
20, 30,000, whatever they would be. It's hard with the new bands because, we've had Easy Life. Easy Life played the same day as Sam. And that band Yonica, and this band called Nimmo. So weirdly, 4 out of 5 bands who played to 40 people at sort of a semi-corporate thing have all gone on to to careers or megastar careers.
Yeah, okay. Right, so I want to touch on, again, we were talking about, in another podcast episode, revenue streams and brand partnerships being one of those.
Yeah.
How long have you been doing this now? Decades.
20 odd years, yeah.
Decades,
yeah.
plural.
Yes,
okay.
actually.
What advice would you give to a brand or an artist looking to break into partnerships for the first time?
For a band, definitely just do your thing.
Yeah.
I know it sounds obvious, that's what everyone does, but that Lemonade Shoelace band that won this competition, I just knew they were going to win it from second I saw their stuff, because the logo was sick and they just had a look. And the songs, you don't have to do something that's never been done before, but they just sounded cool, looked cool, their cover letter was cool, and the 100 next ones you saw would have been, telling us their radio history or their whatever. So yeah, as a band, just do your thing. There will be a brand. If you try and do something to get a brand's attention, you probably won't.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you do your own thing, somebody's going to say, these guys are cool.
Yeah.
And then what was the other half?
Well, I actually said brands or artists, but like if it's not a band and it's just a regular artist, same approach, I guess, right?
Yeah.
But if it's a brand, let's say you're a new brand, you want to leverage music. How do you do that?
Find that band in your...
Yeah, the opposite.
Yeah, exactly the opposite. Yeah. Well, it's awful because, if you're a new band, you can still send your stuff. It's not that hard to seed.
If you're a new brand.
You can still, get in touch with the manager, send a box.
Yeah.
Not as easy as it used to be because there's so many brand agents that work for these bands who are like, the second something comes in, they try and monetize it.
Yeah. With seeding, just to interject, Do you reach out before you send, or do you just send and hope?
Half and half. I used to send and hope, and it was all right.
Okay.
But yeah, I'd never just send shit. I'd always try, in fact, we'd sort of pride ourselves on trying to go, we know that guy likes those trainers, or we know he likes that colour, or he loves Nike, so he's never wearing Vans, or sometimes it's a box and hope. Usually it's more like a think. Suit you. And the longer you do it, the briefs can come in where somebody can come and say, we're shooting a video, we want this look, what you got.
Okay, next then, something... Let's talk about, well, I heard in another podcast that you did where you were talking about music and brand partnerships, and where there has to be, maybe not half and half, but a digital side and a live side. Is that correct?
Yeah, this day and age. That's only
why?
Well, it's like the URL, IRL thing that came around, isn't it, in lockdown. I always think you can't really do, if something's just digital, but I'm probably wrong about this because people make huge careers by just being digital, don't they?
Yeah.
I think for a brand, you've got to do something where a punter or the artist can enjoy a real thing.
Yeah.
Basically just because I like gigs. And I just think a gig has to happen whether it's watched online or whatever, but
I guess it's a different kind of connection and a live experience, isn't it? Right? Yeah.
And that's what I've always reacted to, and I think the best digital results come from a physical. Yeah. As in, you get the best content from a gig, you get the best photos, you get the best real emotions from the crowd, etc. So yeah, I think half and half. Some people would say that's bollocks.
Well, the reason, so what I want to lead on to, and I don't know if you have many thoughts on this, is there's in the kind of where things are headed from 2025 and beyond, we've got this thing called the metaverse that everyone's banging on about. And for me, when we're talking about digital and live, well, that is both, basically. So are you having conversations with brands, or is there ever the discussion point of, there's this thing coming that's already happening, we're already seeing it, with live performances in the metaverse? Like, what are your thoughts? How do music and brands and metaverse?
I think it's only the big boys can play in that playing field. Like if you're Nike and Travis Scott and you're doing something in Fortnite, the numbers are just insane, aren't they? Nike's got the biggest budget, Fortnite's got the biggest users, Travis got the most fans. So it's just
that makes sense.
An absolute win-win. I think Vans has got like a little Roblox, but kids just go in there and play on this little digital skate park.
And
I don't think it'd be the same if we said to Little Sims, do you want to go and play in there? I think it should. I think maybe half the reason I say all this is because Vans is quite a IRL company, not a you know what I mean? Skateboarding is very there and then, isn't it? And a lot of what they do, whereas they're not as digital like a gaming world. You know? The kids that would go and watch a gig in Fortnite maybe aren't the kids that are down at a skate park, but again, I don't know.
Are there any brands that you are there any brands that you would love to work with? It's like your dream.
Ooh. Vans sort of was 10 years ago. You know, always changes, doesn't it? When you work with someone. Vans definitely was, because everything I was into as a kid, skating and rock music. I think now the ones that come along are the surprise ones, where I'd be like, Major League Baseball. I was like, I'm a basketball fan, not really a baseball fan at the time, so I didn't realise that it would be so cool, and the access to bands would just be, you know, world-class bands. I don't think there's anyone on the list that it's on my mega hit list, but I'm sure something will come along that gets us excited again. What
about on the artist side? Obviously, we've mentioned some pretty big names there. Is there an artist that you think I'd love to do something with them one day?
Again, we're pretty lucky because we've worked so many, and actually most have been totally cool. Some have been totally weird. You can't say names, but some have been really weird. I think
no one. You've done it.
Well, it's not so much done it. It's just more that the people I want to work with probably we haven't found yet. We haven't found. The world hasn't found yet. Okay. So I'd just be excited to see what happens next year or the year after, and then
Well, okay. So to wrap up, what with For Worn Out, what is next? What is there for the next year and the year after? What are you looking to achieve?
Hopefully, just carry on doing the same stuff. Really.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sims has been great, and some of the journeys that's taken us on to South Africa, and New York and stuff like that. So there's another year of Little Sims to come. So there's some exciting stuff to do there. I'm just still quite like what I do, so I'd just be happy if it carried on for another year.
Amazing.
Really.
Okay, mate. Well, listen, I think we're at the end.
Good chat.
Thanks very much for coming on. It's been interesting to dive into this brand partnerships thing because, like I said, we've not done this before. would like to do more of these conversations. And listen, sounds like you've obviously worked on some incredible campaigns, and best of luck for 2025 and beyond.
Thanks, pal.
Nice one, mate.
Good chat.
Cheers.
Love it.